Welcome, future educators. I am so incredibly excited to be your guide today as we master Competency 002B, the sound of music. Now, right off the bat, I want to say that this explainer is about so much more than just memorizing terms to pass a certification exam. We're really here to learn how to give your future students the gift of deeply understanding the music they interact with every single day. So, let's just jump right in.
Okay, close your eyes for just a second and picture this scenario. You're standing in your bustling fourth grade classroom. You've just pressed play on this wonderfully complex, beautiful piece of music, and the whole room just fills with sound. You look around and some students are tapping their feet, others are maybe staring blankly out the window, and I guarantee at least one kid is pretending to conduct an invisible orchestra, right? They're all experiencing it. But here is your essential challenge as their teacher. How do you give them the practical tools to actually understand and talk about what they're feeling? How do you take them from just hearing pleasant noise to actively analyzing and interpreting that music? Well, to guide your students there, you first need to have a really solid grasp of the academic language of music yourself. And I don't want you to think of this language as some boring list of dictionary definitions. No, this is your daily instructional toolkit. As a beginning teacher, knowing the exact standard terminology that musicians use is the magic key. It's literally what allows you to break down those massive, overwhelming auditory experiences into bite-sized, learnable concepts for your kids.
Descriptor B of this competency focuses entirely on applying that standard terminology and specifically knowing how to connect it to the written page. You need a basic understanding of how to read, write, orally recognize, and interpret standard music notation. And really, music notation is just the written symbols used to represent music. It's kind of like a secret code. Your job is to show your students how those invisible sounds just floating around in the air are actually captured and preserved using symbols on a piece of paper.
So let's open up that vocabulary toolkit and group these concepts into expressive and structural elements. On the expressive side, we've got tempo, which is simply the speed of the music. In the classroom, you might ask, hey, is this fast like a running cheetah or slow like a walking turtle? Then we have dynamics, which is all about volume. Is the music super loud or really soft? Then, over on the structural side, we have rhythm. That's the pattern of sounds and silences. And finally, form, which is the overall structure or the organization of the piece. When you master these terms, you can easily explain speed, volume, and patterns so your students can start picking them out all on their own.
Building right on top of that foundation, let's look at melodic and a few additional elements. Melody is your sequence of pitches that forms a musical idea. You know, it's that catchy tune your students are going to be humming all the way down to the cafeteria. Intervals represent the distance between two of those pitches. Next is timbre. Honestly, this is such a fun word to teach kids. It refers to the unique sound quality or the tone color of a voice or instrument. It perfectly explains why a bright, brassy trumpet sounds absolutely nothing like a soft, airy flute, even if they're playing the exact same note. And finally, meter is how we organize beats into recurring groups. All of these terms equip you to teach how individual notes build tunes and how instruments have their own special sound colors.
Now let's pause right here for a second because this is a classic spot where a lot of future teachers get a little tripped up, and we definitely want to clarify it. It is absolutely crucial that you know the difference between pitch and intonation. Pitch is just how high or low a sound is, period. Intonation, though, is how accurately your students actually hit that pitch when they are singing or playing an instrument. Basically, think of pitch as the target painted on the wall. Intonation is how close your student's arrow actually gets to the center of the bullseye. Rounding out our foundational vocabulary, we have oral recognition. This is the superpower of identifying all these musical elements just by listening. As an educator, you need to be able to recognize these elements when you're looking at sheet music, sure, but also when you're just sitting there listening with your eyes closed. This really completes your foundation. If you can hear it, if you can name it, and if you can see it on paper, you are completely equipped to teach it. So, the big, crucial question is, what is this actually going to look like when you are standing at the front of your own classroom? We've covered the theory. We've got our vocabulary toolkit packed. Let's look at exactly what bringing these concepts into practice looks like during a living, breathing lesson. Let's step back into that fourth grade classroom from earlier. Here is a perfect, highly concrete example of this in action. Step 1, you play 2 contrasting musical examples for your class. Step 2, you ask the students to use their oral recognition to figure out which one has a faster tempo and which one has louder dynamics. And they do this entirely by ear at first.
Then, step 3, you hand them a printed musical score and challenge them to find the exact notation symbols that match the fast speed and the loud volume they literally just heard. And honestly, this activity brilliantly captures the ultimate goal of Descriptor B. Notice how beautifully this bridges auto recognition with visual music notation. You're just handing out a piece of paper, having them stare at abstract symbols in total silence, and crossing your fingers that they get it. You are actively connecting how music sounds and feels in the physical room to how it is written on the page. It brings the theory to life. It makes those written symbols deeply meaningful because they are now anchored to a real auditory experience they just had. Let's just pause for a quick moment of reflection. Go ahead and put on your instructional coach hat with me. Truly good teaching is never about blindly following a script or a set of steps. It's about knowing exactly why a specific strategy works. So let's think about this instructional choice of moving from oral listening first directly into visual reading. Ask yourself, how does letting students hear a concept, like a really loud dynamic, before asking them to read the formal notation, actually help different types of learners succeed? Well, think about your students who might struggle with reading or visual processing. Leading with sound gives them an immediate, highly accessible entry point. They get to master the concept of loud with their ears, build up their confidence, and then tackle the visual symbol. You are actively creating multiple pathways to the exact same learning goal, which ensures nobody gets left behind. Okay, as you gear up for your certification exam and, far more importantly, the daily reality of your future classroom, let's lock in the most critical points from this competency. I want to make absolutely sure you are walking away feeling totally prepared and confident. So here are your 3 vital takeaways right out of the standard. First, you've got to know those major vocabulary terms cold: rhythm, melody, form, timbre, tempo, pitch, meter, dynamics, intonation, and intervals. Second, you really need to understand the deep connection between how music sounds and how it is written down. And third, you must be able to identify these elements both orally by using your ears and visually by reading the score. Keep these 3 pillars in your mind and you are going to navigate this part of your exam without breaking a sweat. But let's look way beyond the exam for just a minute, because mastering these terms isn't just about bubbling in the right answer on a test, it's about building your internal confidence as an educator so you can really empower your future students. When you feel totally secure in your knowledge of this terminology, I promise you that confidence radiates into your lesson plans, your delivery, and every single interaction you have with your kids. By conquering Competency 002B, you are preparing yourself to give your students the exact vocabulary they need to deeply understand and appreciate the music that surrounds them every single day. You aren't just teaching them to read a dry score. You are giving them the language to express exactly how a movie soundtrack makes them feel, or why their favorite pop song on the radio is just so incredibly catchy. You're giving them a voice to articulate their own world. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Think about the lasting impact you're going to make. The very next time your future students hear a symphony or a jazz band playing in the park, or even just a bird singing outside your classroom window, what are they going to hear differently, simply because you took the time to give them the right words to describe it? Thank you so much for learning with me today. You are going to be an absolutely incredible educator.